A few days ago, I was bored searching on the dark web, and I was just pondering through the terrible things that you can buy on most websites. I saw many things such as specific credit card information to severed limbs. As a joke, I decided to buy something that I found. I did not want to go as far as severed limbs, but more something on the side of credit card information or a fake ID. I asked my friends what to buy and showed them my page. I scrolled and scrolled until my friend David told me to stop on one specific item, a used Satanist prayer and sacrifice mat. I was pretty hesitant at first, but after some debate I gave in and purchased it. Weirdly, it arrived just the next day despite the website not asking for any address. At the time I thought nothing of it, but looking back, I was blind to the fact that somehow this website knew where I lived. I called David and my other friends to come and see it. Half an hour later, everyone was at my house gathering around me as I held the eerie package. After about 3 minutes of just standing in silence, David demanded that I open it. I don't know why it also had a tag with my full name and address, Sharon Edens. I stared at the tag with my personal information on it, feeling shivers down my spine as I acknowledged that this purchase was potentially the worst decision of my life. Hesitantly, I cut through the duct tape that covered the opening of the box and pulled the flaps of the box up and to the side so that what was in the box was clear to me. Rolled up like a rug was a Satanist mat. I picked it up and unfolded it. It was red and looked like it had been used heavily, with what looked to be candle wax melted into the fabric, and a darker red-brown stain that looked like a spill or a splatter. Something wasn't right. We placed it on the floor and looked up how to perform a ritual on a mat. After finding out how to do the ritual, we sat in the circle position that the tutorial told us to sit in. We said the ritual, except the tutorial online told us to turn the lights off. We didn't. And because we didn't, the mat turned them off for us. Yes, you heard me correct. The lights flickered on, off, on, and off again. They stayed like that for a while, and by this time I began to realize the mistake we had made. I stopped chanting the ritual. Hey, guys, we should probably stop this ritual now. Did you see the lights flicker? We need to stop this before it gets out of hand. I tried to tell them and repeated it 2 or 3 times before something happened. The lights flickered on and off again, and they started chanting louder. They got louder and louder until they were all shouting. All at once, they opened their eyes. Their pupils were white, nothing in their eyes at all. Immediately ran out of the house and to the neighbors. Asked to come into their house and they agreed. I phoned the police and told them everything. Within an hour, the house had been cleared by 6 armed police officers. Nothing in the house at all. That was 3 days ago, and they have been missing since. Nothing too creepy has been happening. Except every night I hear the same chanting coming from my living room. But when I go to check with my pistol that I use mainly for protection, they are not there. Don't buy books off the dark web. I can't be very detail specific here due to the nature of my job, but I will try my best to communicate the story as best as I can. I work in the cyber crimes division of a law enforcement agency that's about as specific I can get. And I want to be clear here, most of the stories that you read about the dark web are outright fabrications. The tales of red rooms and stories of hiring hitmen are practically universally untrue. Most crime takes place on your normal everyday web. One Tuesday afternoon though, I got a call saying there was a new case for me. Well, the officer on the other end of the call didn't seem to be too sure that it was a case for me, but wanted me to have a look anyway. I went down to talk to 2 young boys. Both of them were teenagers, likely still in high school. I was wondering what this was all even about when one of them started blabbering about something they got off the dark web. Apparently the 2 of them were doing a TikTok or YouTube challenge. I can't care to remember which one it was, but they were looking for things to buy off the dark web. Again, honestly, There's very little actual shady activity that goes on the dark web, unless you want to buy drugs, so the two of them were mainly disappointed. Until they found a site that sold books, one of which they bought. I was then handed the book in question. I put on a pair of gloves and flipped through it. It was filled with photos of a young lady. Initially, they were of her smiling, and in locations such as that of a meadow or city square, though as it went on they became more provocative, for a lack of a better term. She began wearing outfits like a maid uniform or a catgirl cosplay, and the last few photos were of her wearing nothing. "Is this all you wanted to show me?" I asked, wondering what the fuss was about. It was then that I was handed a card, one that had come with the book. It said, "Thank you for your purchase, dear customer. Inside you can find a treasure trove of photos of a young girl." Though that's not all that special about this book. To make sure that it is truly one of a kind, we made sure that you could get the full experience. The book is bound with her skin, so feel free to gently caress the leather as you think of her. Again, thank you for your purchase. At this point, I should probably mention, for those who might be unaware, what anthropomorphic bibliopegy is. It's the name for the practice of binding a book with human skin. Probably don't need to say this, but it is illegal. Even assuming the skin was from a cadaver, you'd run into laws dealing with human remains. This card, though, from what was written on it, it was made to sound as if the skin had been taken from the girl while she was alive. Well, either that, or she had been killed and then skinned specifically to make this book. I thought the whole thing was an elaborate joke. My first hunch was that the two boys were in on it, but they seemed too scared for it to be a hoax on their end, and I interviewed the two of them separately, and their stories held up. All right, perhaps they were telling the truth, but that didn't mean that the book was really bound with human skin. Even if it felt like leather, it was most likely animal leather, and all of this added for flavor. I told the officer in charge of the case just that, and said that there was no real need to investigate further, though I did give the young boys a warning regarding buying things off of sketch websites. And that's when the case ended. Or so I thought. As it turns out, the officer in charge of the case decided that on the off chance that it was real, to get the book tested. And it turned out the leather binding the book was, as a matter of fact, from human skin. As you can imagine, interest in the case surged after that. We were dealing with a potential murder case now, and we called the two boys back. I was also brought back on board to try to get to the root of things, and I was able to get the Tor address of the site they used. Unfortunately, all I got was an error message when I used that link. I did some more sleuthing, but that got me nowhere. Frustrated, turned to other sources for help, but there was little progress that I was able to make. Further analysis of the skin revealed that it did belong to a woman, and one of Caucasian descent, which all lined up with what I saw in the photographs. But there was little else that forensics could do, as the process of preparing the leather made many tests unviable. The DNA test of the skin didn't reveal anything, and we searched far and wide to see if anyone recognized the girl in those photos. No match till date. The case was about to turn cold when I managed to find an unexpected lead on a forum. I caught wind of someone else who had purchased a similar book and was confused regarding the veracity of what was claimed about it. It was 3 states over, but we managed to track down the poster, who was a woman who had bought it out of morbid curiosity. Forensic testing revealed the cover was made of human skin as well. She had a different Tor link, one which I tried, and this one actually worked. The site by itself was nothing very impressive. It was as basic as could be, kind of like old sites back in the 2000s. I would have thought that it was a cheap prank based off this alone, but the 2 cases made me hold back my skepticism. I took screenshots of the websites and confirmed with the 2 boys who first came to us with this case that this was the site we were looking for. Both of the books had been mailed from fake addresses from mailboxes within large cities, so there was little to go on there. Given this, we decided to try the site for ourselves, and I placed an order, only for nothing to turn up. If anything, what happened was that the site's URL no longer worked. And it's here where things took a sinister turn. One of the boys, the one who had actually ordered the book, went missing one day. He was coming back home from school, and then, well, there was no further trace of him. A manhunt for months came up with nothing, until one day, the other boy came to us saying that someone had delivered a piece of paper to his house. It wasn't a normal piece of paper, it was a roll of parchment. Testing later revealed that the skin was human, and DNA testing showed that it was from the boy who had gone missing. Upon it, written with what was later confirmed to be blood, were the words, STAOI-UTOFOURDUSINESS. I don't like to admit this, but that single incident spooked me beyond anything I've ever encountered. I'm not really used to being in the line of fire, yeah. I know I'm part of law enforcement, but my work is usually done behind a computer screen. I didn't catch a wink of sleep for 3 nights after we confirmed what it was. I vividly remember how his mother broke down in tears when we gave her the news. There are no more leads aside from that anyway, and I honestly want nothing more to do with the case anymore. People who would gladly skin someone and then use that skin are not people I want to be in close contact with. Well, the case might be over, but I'm leaving this here as a general warning. Do not buy things off the dark web, even if it's more than likely a joke than not. Because sometimes they might not be kidding. Boredom is hitting everyone hard right now. With social distancing a top priority, we are all finding interesting ways to keep ourselves occupied. I think I may have ventured a little too much, though. It all started 3 weeks ago. Sitting in my bedroom, I tossed a softball into the air for a few minutes before I sat up on the edge of my bed. I looked over at my laptop I had been neglecting since I dropped out of college. I turned it on and began surfing. Nothing much had changed on the net. I visited all the regular sites I used to: Pinterest, YouTube, Tumblr. Thought about what I could do with that piece of technology. This triggered a craving I had for a long time, the want to visit the dark web. I had heard only terrible things. It's a place to find organs, drugs, and weapons. I had no use for any of those things, but still, curiosity got the best of me. Before I knew it, I was downloading the browser that would bridge my access. Aside from all those scary things I could find on the dark web, I had seen some videos a while back about mystery boxes. You can pay anywhere from $5 to hundreds of dollars for a plain brown box filled with goodies. The contents were undisclosed, hence the mystery part. This could be something fun, as it was definitely enticing. 5-minute search landed me on a site that had exactly what I was looking for. Now, I did not have much cash to just blow, so I kept a modest budget of $20. I searched through countless sellers, although I could not exactly tell you why. There was no way of determining which would be the best option, since the descriptions were quite vague. Still, I was a little nervous. I was flushing a crisp Jackson down the toilet. Knowing my luck, I'd receive a box with a chewed-up piece of bubble gum inside. My laptop was one of those you could fold in half and turn into a tablet, so I decided for fate to choose my purchase. Entered my budget in the filters and converted my laptop to tablet form. I closed my eyes and swiped my finger upwards, then pressed down to make my selection. The selection was not all that great, but I was tired of searching already. Read through what was available. Mystery box. Life-changing. Valued at priceless. My loss. Your gain. Sounded good enough to me. My lips pursed as I typed in my credit card information, name, and address, as if my body was not agreeing with what I was commanding. The box arrived just 3 days later. I could hardly contain my excitement as I carried it to my bedroom. I sat it on my bed and studied it a bit. No return address. Typical. My fingernails began picking at the tape and tearing away. Pulling the flaps apart, revealed sparkly tissue paper. Cute. The contents inside, not so cute. There was a muddy pair of shoes. No big deal, I guess, but it was a little weirder that the pair of shoes seemed brand new. The soles were not worn out. The tongue did not have the crease and wrinkles that you would expect, and the insides were almost spotless. The next item was a tiny, black, crushed velvet bag. The kind of bags you pull closed with strings. The feeling was not very impressive. I shook the bag around a bit, and thought it sounded like little rocks inside. I pulled the mouth apart, and poured out the contents into my hand. Audible "damn" escaped my lips. My hand flipped over to break the contact it had with my skin. They scattered. Teeth. Really? I let my body rid the creeps by giving a little shiver. I peered back in the box. One more item remained. A diamond ring. Maybe this box wasn't such a dud after all. I'm no jeweler, but I did know that a quick look at the band of authentic gold would most likely result in finding the carats in small print. 18K, not bad. I sized up the ring, which was visibly small. I wondered if I could have it altered. I might as well get something usable out of this. The next day, I carried my small finding to a local jewelry shop. I inquired about the authenticity, which they verified. Small fee, and a day later, I was sporting new ice. I was pleased with my purchase enough to leave a modest review to my seller, but when I tried to rate him or her, my laptop froze up. Tried everything I could to reboot with no success. Holding down the power button, closing and reopening, pressing a combination of keys. Finally, I gave up and let it do its own thing. An hour later, it finally powered off and restarted. I blew this off as a mandated update. The screen displayed the typical downloading files, followed by a slow restarting bar filling horizontally. After all that mess, I did not bother to revisit the website. I had probably caught a bug on the damn thing, and was lucky it still worked at all. My day was interrupted by a knock on the door. At the other side of my door stood a man who towered over me. Only poked my head out, and placed my hand on the outside of the door, almost hugging it, obviously uncomfortable with an unexpected visitor. The man at the door verified my name, then asked if I would follow him down to the station, just to ask me a few questions. Station? What station? I asked. The police station, he responded. In the middle of us talking, I noticed he was staring at my hand, which I jerked away, still unconvinced with what this was all regarding. Regardless, I was too scared to question him, and did as he asked. We arrived at the police station where I was guided into a small room. Only a desk and 3 chairs were inside. The video camera in the corner. The officer proceeded to ask me questions. Where I was on some night 3 years prior. Where I was on some night 8 months prior. I knew a young woman by the name Selena Ramos. I was familiar with a lady named Melody Stissy. It was all a bit much to take in, but I gladly obliged, as I had no idea where they were going. I knew I had done nothing wrong. I knew I had nothing to hide. I knew that the faster I answered their questions, the faster it would all be over with. I remained in that room for hours. He asked the same questions in different formats. In an attempt to catch me in a lie, he asked for my permission to search my home, grab what they needed, get my fingerprints, all that good stuff. Again, as I had nothing to hide, I agreed. Trying to explain where the things came from was no use. They only circled back to my search history. They claimed to know this was my scapegoat, and even advised me I wasn't going to get out if this one. The officer stated, "We are not buying your bullshit. There was no black web visited from your computer. There is no purchase made from WLF 267. Just face it, we got you. That was enough to make my tears stop. Cocked my head sideways and said, "Excuse me. What did you say?" I continued, WLF 267. How did you know the name of the seller? Couldn't even remember the name of the seller. For a millisecond I saw him swallow a heavy gulp. Then he fixed his tie. Cut it out. You told me. That's what you said when we were at your house. He said. No, you're lying. I didn't say shit. You didn't even tell me why you were there. Why the heck would I bring that up? Like clockwork. A second detective enters the room and interrupts me. He doesn't say anything, besides officially putting me under arrest for kidnapping, murder, false imprisonment. I believe there was more, but I did not catch everything. My surroundings became fuzzy. I felt like I was going to be sick, and my hearing was fading in and out. Just spoke with my lawyer. He says they have a solid case against me. They found Selena's teeth at my apartment. They caught me with Melody's wedding ring, and the shoes they had photographs of me throwing away matched the shoe prints left at Melody's crime scene. My laptop had gruesome photos of their bloated and rotted bodies. My search history was criminal, such as how to frame someone for murder, how to create Fox searches, how to hack someone's computer, not to mention the anonymous tip they have on file, claiming I had gotten drunk one night and confessed to the murders. I don't even drink. Worst of all, being such an introvert and loner, I have no way to prove my locations for the dates provided. There's no use. I stand warned that I need to sign a plea or risk the death penalty. The cases have been going for years now. The government is just ready to solve it, and nothing closes a case better than a guilty plea. If you enjoyed the stories, you can subscribe to hear more from me. Thanks for tuning in today, and see you soon.